Lesson 5, educate them about compound interest. This one, I think, if you ask me, you should never ask me what my favorite chapter is because it's like telling you which child I like more, right? So I like them all. But this one I think is really important. Why? Because I think when they understand compound interest, you're inspiring them to want to save. You're inspiring them to want to invest to earn that interest or that growth. When the money grows, they have to pay taxes. You're learning about that. This is like my one lesson where I think you get 4 of my lessons in this one. So here's what I want you to think about on this one. Catchphrases. Do you know those things that are in your head that your parents used to say all the time that you used to mimic them on? Okay, I have like a ton from my parents that I used to make fun of. Oh, the da 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 da. A penny saved is a penny earned, or things like that. So I want you to put a couple of those things in your head, in their heads, and I want you to risk being mocked by your kids. Okay, so for the better goal or the more important goal of making them financially literate 10 years from now. So the first is going to be Albert Einstein, who talked about compound interest. You remember he said something like compound interest was the 8th wonder of the world. Those who understand it earn it. Those who don't understand it pay it. Right? So I always thought that that was good. And when I said it with my kids, I would say it, and this is going to sound a little bit dorky, but bear with me. I would call it the miracle of compound interest. And I did that on purpose because my kids would mock me and they would say, yeah, Dad, we know the miracle of compound interest. So yes, I suffered a little ridicule in my own house. But now my son is in his first couple of years of college, and I know when he graduates college, he's going to have that phrase stuck in his head. So I think it's good to use some of these, and I'll tell you, you'll see a couple more in my book of things that you can use, little sayings. But another thing I like to call compound interest is interest on interest. And the example I used with my kids was, I said, guys, it's like a snowball that we put on top of the hill. I live in Connecticut and there's a hill by our house, so that's why I did it. And I said, imagine we put a snowball at the top of the hill and it starts to roll down and it starts to accumulate snow. So that little snowball, by the time it gets to the bottom of the hill, becomes a much bigger snowball. The snow that accumulated as it was rolling down, that is what compound interest is. And then I break into my favorite party trick, which is rule of 72, which is probably why I don't get invited to a whole lot of parties. But for me, I think it's kind of fun. It's a cool math trick. The rule of 72 works like this. It's, okay, you take the number 72. Are you listening? You take the number 72, and I want you to divide it by the interest rate that you think you could get. And your answer to that will be how long it takes your money to double. Okay, so let's play around with this. 72, and I think we're going to get a 10% rate of return. How long does that take my money to double? 7.2 years. Let me switch that up just to try and trick you, right? So 72, and let's assume I'm going to get a 7% rate of return. How long does that take your money to double? Exactly. It takes 10 years. And then what I did is I pit my kids against each other in a game at dinner. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you the interest rate. And the first one to tell me how long it takes your money to double wins a point. And the winner gets to choose where we go for dessert that day or whatever whatever the prize was. I actually don't remember, but that would be kind of something in the Henske house we would do. So I would say, okay, 1%. And they would say 72 years. Then I would go, okay, 10%, 7 years. And now what I've done is I've helped them understand that at 1%, it takes a long time for your money to double. But at 10%, it takes you a long time, but it's longish, 7 years compared to 72. And then everything else in between, because it doesn't divide neatly, turns into a little math lesson. So I'm sneaky math guy on that too.